Okay, so you guys trying to build your legs? Well, there are some things that you need to do, and there are some things you absolutely don't need to do. Here are the things that you need to do in order to build big legs. All right, so legs, my least favorite body part to work out, but it is the most rewarding from a bodybuilding and from a muscle burning perspective. It's the biggest muscle group in your body. Biggest key to building legs, whether it's building size or definition, and this is for both you guys and you girls, you got to train hard. I don't mean you have to lift a massive amount of weight, but you have got to push yourself past that point where you want to quit. Push through that burn, because the key to growing legs, just like any other part of the body, is hypertrophy. That means exhausting and making that muscle go to failure. You want to make that muscle go to failure and then push beyond that failure point to get the most out of your leg workouts. Okay, the next thing I'm going to tell you, just like any other body part that I talk about, is slow is always better. Another great key for building those legs is when you get to the point where you can't really do another squat or another extension, you're going to start doing partial reps or pulses. So if you can't do a full leg extension, pulse it. Just do half. Do half reps until you can't possibly do another one. And as always, I always recommend usually at least 4 sets per exercise and at least 1 exercise per muscle group that you're trying to target, whether that is your quads, your hamstrings, your calves, or your glutes. So warm up very well. You're always going to do a good warm up at light weight, and then you're going to up the weight and do another warm up set. But your last 2 sets need to be working set. So on your last working set, say it's the 4th set, you're going to finish that rep scheme. You're going to do as many as you can, and then maybe you incorporate a burnout set to where instead of pausing, you're going to lighten the weight, and then you're just going to go for fast rep, not jerky reps, but really faster reps for as many as you can, and it's going to burn. And the goal is to push through that burn. Another great tip for building your legs is to build each leg separately on certain exercises. Do single leg repetitions. So do your rep scheme on one leg, the rep scheme on the other leg. You don't have to do this on every single exercise, but it is definitely good to put single rep schemes into each one of your workouts. Okay, let's talk about your range of motion. Now, some people will tell you that if you're doing a squat, you've got to go as low as you possibly can to get the most out of that squat. Now, guys, that's not true for every person. If you look at people squatting, you'll notice everyone squats somewhat differently. And that's primarily because everybody's body is different. You're going to want to go to the point where you know you're not going to injure yourself, or you're not going to come to the point where you have bad form. And bad form on a squat means rounding your spine, leaning forward, or simply just getting to the point where you're just really trying to get everything you had to get it back up. Stay in your form. The further out you point your toes and maybe the wider your stance, the more you're going to engage your glutes. The more your toes are pointed in, or the further your feet are together, the more you're going to engage your quads. When you're squatting or any kind of a squat movement, you're not going to be pushing on the balls of your feet. You want your weight to go through the heel. Think of pushing your heels through the ground. Instead of trying to stand up, think of yourself pushing through the ground, through your heels. In a leg workout, I like to incorporate 4 types of movement. There's going to be some kind of a squatting movement. You're also going to want to incorporate some extension, an extension movement. You also want to incorporate a lunge movement. That could be something like a static lunge, where you're standing in place and you're going between your right and your left knee forward. It could be a walking lunge, and it could be a side lunge. But I can't tell you how effective these are at really building your legs. A great other exercise for both lunge and extension, I always try to incorporate into most of my workouts, is a Bulgarian split squat. You put one of your toes back on the bench behind you. You're balancing on one heel. You're going to squat with one knee going down and then come back up. Okay, let's talk about the adductors and the abductors. Now, the abductors are the muscles on the side of your hips that assist with your leg rotating from in to out, bringing your legs together as if you're going to squeeze your knees together you're going to be using your adductor muscles. Those are also important if you're really trying to get well-sculpted, well-rounded legs. Don't forget to include exercises for that. And finally, guys, you're going to want to include some kind of a lifting movement. Now, I'm not a big fan of a standard deadlift. I've been injured too many times in a deadlift to really recommend them to people. However, there are methods and versions of the deadlift that I believe you can and should incorporate. One of those is what's called a Romanian deadlift, or you might call it a stiff-legged deadlifts. You don't want your knees completely locked. With just a little bit of flex, a little bit of bend up in them, you're going to bend over all the way down, and then when you come up, you really concentrate on squeezing with your hamstrings and your glutes. The more you really focus on squeezing that muscle, the more it's going to engage, the more it's going to grow. I'm also a fan of what's called a sumo deadlift. Now, you can do this with either a kettlebell, you can do it with heavy dumbbells, and that's where you're going to spread your legs wider apart, a pretty good distance, more than shoulder width apart. And as you go down, you're going to go down slow, and as you come up, you're really still going to concentrate on squeezing with your glutes and your hamstrings to get that full contraction and the most growth that you can. Guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click notifications to get notified when we do post new videos. And go visit peakbody.com for their supplement line to help you grow the legs that you're looking for.